Here's a crazy stat you should know about. 86% of homeowners in America have mortgage rates under 6%. And experts are predicting that as interest rates fall, those homeowners are finally going to list their homes for sale. So what does that mean for the housing market? Well, let's break it down. My name is Justin Lopatin. I've been a mortgage lender for 18 years, and I've helped over 5,000 people purchase their home, invest in real estate, or refinance. So my goal for this channel is to help people make smart decisions when buying or investing in real estate. So if you're watching and you're not yet subscribed, please click the link, subscribe for more information and more advice to help you make better decisions. Falling interest rates is a big deal. It's going to have a significant impact for both home buyers and for home sellers. So we've just seen the first Fed rate cut in years, and that triggered a lot of home buyer demand. We're seeing many home buyers enter the market again because just last October in 2023, mortgage rates were over 8%. As I make this video today, in October, mortgage interest rates are down near 6%. That's over a 2% difference, which is over $100,000 in buying power for the average home buyer. That's a big deal. So many buyers have been discouraged by high interest rates, and then you throw in rising rents and inflation and the cost of goods and services and groceries like out of control. We're finally feeling some relief by the Fed lowering interest rates. And the good news is that the Fed is committed to lowering interest rates over the next 6 to 12 months. So it's very exciting, but it's creating opportunity and it's changing the housing market a bit. I think one of the biggest things we'll see change is what we refer to as the lock-in effect. The lock-in effect has kept current homeowners locked into their pandemic interest rates near 3% because they don't want to sell and buy a new home and take a rate at 7 or 8%, which is where they've been the last year. As mortgage rates come down, that lock-in effect should ease, and it's going to feel much less painful going to maybe a 5 or 6% interest rate than it would for a home seller to buy a new home and take an 8% interest rate. As the lock effect eases, this should create more inventory, which will actually help the housing market quite a bit. So what will happen is, in my prediction and in this article I just read from Realtor.com, the easing lock-in effect is going to create more inventory. If there's more inventory, that means there's not 10 people bidding on every home. So it should at least soften prices a bit, or maybe pause the continued increase in prices, which home prices have been going up for like the last 10 years. It's been pretty crazy. And financially speaking, I don't blame those people. For those of you that have a mortgage rate at 3%, selling your home to buy a new home and taking a mortgage at 7 or 8%, it's crazy. Your housing payments will literally double. You might make some money when you sell your home, but you're going to have to pay more for the new home, and your mortgage payment is going to be so much higher. Literally 3% to 7%. That's double. It's crazy. But here's the thing. Life happens. People get married, people get divorced, people change jobs, people's families are growing, they want to change schools, they make more money, they get relocated. At some point, life just pushes you to buy the next home, to make the next move, and you just got to do what you got to do. So fortunately, as interest rates come down, all these homeowners shouldn't feel as locked into their pandemic interest rates, and they'll be more inclined to sell. I have a ton of clients that I've been talking to for the last year that are going through these life changes. They want to buy the new home. They want to move out to the suburbs. They want to change schools. But financially, they've been so comfortable with that low interest rate. And there's been a bunch of studies and kind of economic predictions around this, but I think the magic number is rates in that mid 5% range. And the prediction, at least for most economists, is that as the Fed continues to cut rates heading into 2025, we should hit a rate somewhere in the mid to low 5% range. That should be the real trigger, the domino effect that kind of triggers people to list their homes, get ready to move. So for home buyers, a piece of advice I'd give you now is if you can find a home you love, consider jumping on it, because even though rates might be coming down, when rates do come down, the demand is going to increase like substantially. So if you can find a home now in Q4 of 2024, or even in the first quarter of 2025, you can always refinance in 6 to 9 months if rates continue to drop. So just something to consider. Now, hang on. Before we get into the rest of the video, if you're finding value today and you plan on buying a home in the next 12 months, I've created a free homebuyer guide, which you can download by clicking the link in the description below. Now on to the rest. And as I mentioned earlier, these lower interest rates have become very appealing to home buyers. It's all over the news. And the way the math shakes out is that 2% drop in interest rates from the 8% range to the 6% range, that's about $100,000 of increased buying power. We're talking about the home with the extra bedroom. We're talking about the home in the neighborhood you'd rather be in. We're talking about the bigger home that has the yard. You, as a homeowner, a potential home buyer rather, you now have $100,000 more buying power without your monthly payments going up, just because mortgage rates have dropped 2% in the last year. And with rents rising across the country, this is going to push more buyers back into the market because home affordability is now back in reach for people that last year couldn't afford it. And there are still various programs and grants out there, whether it's down payment assistance from your local city or state, or a 2-1 buy down to get your mortgage rate 2% lower. Imagine if mortgage rates were 6% and you got a 2-1 buy down. That means in the first year, your interest rate would be 4%. In the second year, it would be 5%. And in the third year, it'd go back to 6%. There are still very creative ways to get your rate even lower in addition to interest rates falling down. So you got to imagine that's going to catalyze the market. The stat is for every 1% rate drop, 5 million home buyers enter the market. That's wild. So even though the lock-in effect is going to unleash some more inventory, 5 million home buyers entering the market for every 1% rate drop, it's going to create a lot of demand. I personally think home prices are going to come up in 2025. And the data backs up these predictions. Just in the last week, we've seen mortgage applications increase by 11%. That's a lot of people that are getting back into the market to get pre-approved. Because remember, even if you don't plan on buying a home for another 6 months, you can still get pre-approved today just so you're ready. You might be sitting there on one Saturday snowy morning and all of a sudden the one pops up. Why not be ready? At the end of the year and in the beginning of the year, there's less people in the market. So if you happen to see something you absolutely love and you think you can navigate out of your lease, why not be ready? You might be able to negotiate in the middle of wintertime when some seller just got relocated and he or she needs to sell in the next 30 days. Those are where you find the opportunities. So I think buyers need to get ready. I think they need to dial in their budget. I think they should get pre-approved regardless of how far they think their timeline is. Just know where you stand as interest rates fall, because everyone's budget has changed quite a bit in the last year. And once we hit that spring market of 2025, I'm very confident we'll see a lot of multiple offers, which means 3, 4, 5, even 10 people bidding on the same property. Because here's the thing, there's way more demand than supply. And even though the lock-in effect is going to free up some supply, there's 30 to 40 million millennials, or maybe more, that have hit the family formation stage. They're getting married, having kids, growing their families, and they are ready to buy homes. And that demand is going to far exceed the supply of homes we have. So in the springtime, when everyone's lease is up and buyers are coming into the market, just be prepared. People are going to be bidding and paying more, and that's just the reality of it. But again, the good news is that you'll have more buying power, so you should have a wider range of properties to look at, which hopefully gives you more options. Sellers are going to have a different market experience as well, especially compared to 2023 and 2024. Over the last 12 months, we've seen properties sitting in the market way longer, and we've seen a ton of price cuts. But as I mentioned, that drop in interest rates is going to trigger a lot of home buyer demand. We expect it to be a really busy spring market, which gives sellers a little bit more control and power, and hopefully they can sell at a higher price than they otherwise would have in 2023 or 2024. Now, I don't think we'll see a turbocharged housing market like we did during the pandemic, but we'll definitely see more competition because of the amount of people that now have affordability. And this is going to impact home prices quite a bit, because as interest rates come down, more people enter the market, they start competing and paying more for homes. Guy on the block sells his home for $400. The next guy lists his home for $410. The next lady lists their home for $425. Rinse, wash, repeat. We're going to start to see this trend of people paying a little bit more. And then the sellers get that swag. They get that ego. They tell the realtor, hey, that guy sold for $425. I'm not taking anything less than $450. And believe it or not, it happens. And with interest rates coming down, buyers feel a little bit more, ready to negotiate and willing to pay a little bit more, because they feel confident that lower mortgage rates are going to keep their payments more affordable. So honestly, I think home prices are going to go up maybe 5 to 10% next year, because so many home buyers are going to be in the market, and they're going to have that confidence of affordability and lower interest rates behind them. So at the end of the day, there's still way more demand than supply. So there's really nowhere for home prices to go but up. Now, if you're a home seller, don't get too cocky just yet. List it at a fair market value price, because what you'd rather have is people competing and driving the price up instead of setting some really high obnoxious price and having no one come check out your listing. So take your realtor's advice. They're going to look at the comps in the area. They're going to see what's sold, price it at fair market value, and create a little bit of competition. That's my opinion. Now, when it comes to multiple offers, which is when multiple people are bidding on the same home, over the last 12 to 18 months, that hasn't been very common. It's still happening in certain high quality cities and places that are just really busy regardless of the market and regardless of rates. But on a national level, multiple offers have kind of diminished, and that's why we've seen home prices come down just a touch, and we've seen homes sitting on the market longer. Again, lower interest rates will bring more buyers into the market, and it's really going to make it tricky in certain areas that have a high demand with limited inventory. And the thing about real estate is it's so local. What's happening in Chicago is different than what's happening in Miami. So based on where you're located, the key is finding a local realtor that understands the market, understands the trends, and that can help you make a right decision, to know when to negotiate, to know when you should go into a multiple offer situation, and to know when you should maybe throw out a lowball offer. It's very, very market specific, and every city is so different right now. Another hot topic that kind of ties into all this is with the new real estate changes to buyer agents and how buyer agents are paid. For those unaware, buyers are now required to sign what's called a buyer broker agreement based on the realtor they're working with. And if the listing agent for the home the buyer wants doesn't want to pay the buyer agent, you as the home buyer are now required to pay your realtor. So you have to factor all this in, and you have to really ask the right questions. In my experience, since this law passed in August, I haven't seen any buyers I've worked with be required to pay their agent, but I think it's happening. And I think we might see more of it in 2025. There's ways to negotiate around it, and there's ways to work that commission into the deal. But as a potential home buyer, you have to be aware. You have to make sure your realtor explains it to you specifically, because it varies very subtly in different markets with regards to what documents are signed and how the buyer-broker agreement works. But because this is so new, as a buyer, you want to get educated and you want to understand what you might be on the hook for when it comes to potentially paying the realtor that you're working with. Because again, historically, the buyer never paid the realtor. The buyer's realtor was always paid by the seller. But now that's changing. And again, my advice for buyers is I really think you should get pre-approved sooner than later. Get back on the financial scale and weigh in. See where you stand based on your budget and lower interest rates. But at the same time, be patient. It doesn't mean you need to rush into the market, but start looking at the price range you qualify for and look at the trends over these next 90 to 120 days. See where home prices are fluctuating. See if homes are sitting on the market longer, and find a good realtor that has the insight to help you think it through. Once you know your budget and you're aligned on your purchase price, you can be more efficient with your search, and you can really look at properties that you know are going to have a payment in your range, so you're not wasting time. And I honestly think that between November and February, that 4-month window, it's such an opportunity for home buyers that have flexibility to buy, especially in cold weather climates in the Midwest and the East Coast. If someone's listing their home in December, they want to get out of there. Something changed. They want to sell the home by the end of the year. Maybe their job, got, relocated them. So if you have the ability to move in December, January, February, number one, there's not going to be a lot of competition. Number two, that home seller is probably desperate and willing to negotiate. And number three, you can probably get a much better deal versus buying in March, April, May, June, July, when the masses are in the market. And my advice for home sellers is find a great realtor and take the recommendations. The market's changing, the real estate laws are evolving, and you really have to understand the dynamics and the trends in your market so you can get the best deal for your property. I think you should price your home competitively, welcome some competition, and hopefully you end up selling it faster that way versus having some really high obnoxious price and nobody wants to come look at your home because they all know it's overpriced. It's never been more important to have a great real estate team supporting you, and that team consists of a local realtor that's an expert in the market and a high caliber mortgage lender that can guide you financially with your budget to help you make the right decisions. And remember, from a timeline standpoint, you always want to be prepared at least 90 days before you're ready to get into the market. So if you want to sell your home in the spring, start talking to a realtor in December or January. If you want to buy a home in the spring, get pre-approved sooner than later. And remember, it doesn't cost anything to get pre-approved. The reason I recommend doing it 90 to 120 days in advance is because there might be something we can help you improve upon. Maybe there's something erroneous or incorrect on your credit. We can get your score up or get that thing removed. Maybe we can help you readjust your savings goal because you weren't accounting for how much closing costs were. Or maybe there's a different strategy in place that aligns with what your financial advisor or your CPA thinks, and we might need to have you do your taxes a certain way. So you have nothing to lose by talking to an expert, getting prepared, and understanding the new dynamics of this market in 2025. All right, we covered a lot. I hope you found this information helpful. If you or someone you know wants to get pre-approved to buy a home, click the link in the description below to schedule a complimentary strategy call with me and my team. We'll go through your budget, we'll answer your questions, we'll help you strategize, so in the next 3 to 6 months, you can be a smart homeowner and make the best decision possible.